welcome everybody to this week's amazing, fantastic, very high quality community call. Today I have with me an earlier co-host who's sort of like an in and out kind of guest on this community call called Huxian, my good friend. How's it going, Hux?
Hello guys, hey Sudo, thanks for having me. I'm super good. Let's go.
And I also have with me Rafa, who's joined the product team recently, and he's basically the person who I'm here to introduce you to guys today and also to have a friendly chit chat with. How's it going, Rafa?
Very well myself. Thank you, Suda, and thank you guys for having me here today. It's only been a month, and it's just a pleasure to be with you guys here.
It's amazing to have you. All right, but before we get to the chat, actually, I'm gonna, as you already know, probably if you've come to any of these community calls, I'm gonna go through our quick news roundup, what happened over the past 2 weeks. And if you have any questions at any point, I forgot to mention that to Rafa, myself, or Hux, or anybody else, feel free to leave them either in the community call text channel, or actually, there's now a stage chat in Discord that was enabled recently, so you can also use the stage chat to ask questions, and we're going to be answering them as they come in. With that, let's get started with the news roundup. Well, first of all, as you may have noticed, we have a pretty huge campaign going on, which is the all you need to know about the NIM wallet campaign. Hopefully, a link will be dropped to it in the chat. There's the total prize pool is 18,000 NIM tokens, and it's just basically a good overview / educational activity on what the NIM wallet does, how it works, and all of that fun stuff. So if you haven't already checked it out, then make sure to take a look. And moving on to the next one, we are at consensus. So specifically, Chelsea and Ahmed are at consensus. They're giving talks. Chelsea are going to give a talk called "The Struggle for Digital Privacy," and Ahmed is going to give a talk called "After Tornado Cast: The Outlook for Privacy and User-Controlled Wallets," which is super interesting because we also talked about this once or back when the whole Tornado Cash situation happened. We had a Shipyard Academy going on, so we spoke quite a bit about the implications of Tornado Cast. So hopefully there will be recordings to these talks, and I can share them on later because they sound super interesting. And on that note, we also dropped a blog post about or like as an homage to consensus, because it's very much a back to basics, back to the fundamentals kind of event. So the entire Web3 and crypto space is represented there, and it's a very broad conversation, usually at consensus. It's a huge event, and we dropped a blog post which is called "Digital Privacy for All: Built on First Principles." And for those who don't know, by the way, those first principles when it comes to crypto and blockchain technology is decentralized, permissionless, trustless, tokenized, and open source technology. So this is what the blog post is about. Super interesting. It was written by Jaina. I recommend everybody checking it out. And moving on to the next one, we had a pretty amazing AMA yesterday with Alexei Russell. He's the chief operating officer of NIM. It was very interesting. So there's a recording shared on the main Telegram channel. So if you guys want, go and check it out. It was a pretty good AMA. And as a side note, we're going to be doing way more of these in the future. So until now, we were mostly focusing on these community calls, but they are now bi-weekly, although not for long, but for now they happen every 2 weeks, and we're looking for some more sort of low effort, not so structured ways to hang out with you guys and answer your questions. So very soon I'm going to be back with another core team member for an AMA, and we're going to be making it into a habit. I'm not sure whether we're going to be doing it all on the main Telegram or not. Maybe we'll play around with the channels a little bit. Maybe we'll do some more tech-focused ones or infrastructure operator-focused ones on the node setup help kit as well. So that's still to be decided. But what we already know is that there's going to be way more of these AMAs because you guys seem to have enjoyed this one with Alexei. And then moving on to the next news item. Many of you already know about this because a lot of you are node operators, and a lot of you attended the DevRel AMA a week ago with Max, which is, by the way, a bi-weekly thing. So next Wednesday, make sure to join the DevRel AMA. It's a pretty cool little event that we do every 2 weeks. So the Rust SDK dropped. That's also kind of big news. Max explained pretty well why that is a big deal. So once the recording of the previous Never Really Any is uploaded, you can also listen to that. It will be shared around on the channels, and this is something to be pretty excited about. The blog post and every link, by the way, to the things that I'm talking about is shared on the NIM stage chat, so you can check it out if you're further interested. And moving on, the Ninja Ambassador Program, as you know, has kicked off, at least in terms of applications. So there's no hard deadline, but Mikola told me that the applications for the first round are going to close sometime early next week. So if you have any inspiration of joining and you haven't already applied, then make sure to do that before, maybe hopefully during the weekends to be safe, and then your application will still be considered. But if you're not, if you don't end up making it this time, don't worry, because this is just going to be the first round. We're starting with a few ambassadors first, and then as the program scales, there's going to be more ambassadors in more regions doing more things. So this is going to be kind of like a staged release. So stay tuned for more info on that, and also stay tuned for the first Ninja ambassadors joining the chest. And then the last item is the big one, which I've been talking about quite a bit. So if you've been visiting these community calls, then it's definitely not going to be the first time you're hearing about this. The NIM delegations program finally dropped today. It was announced today. So this is a big deal. We put quite a bit of work into this, although this is also just a staged release. So this is going to be the first iteration of the delegations program. For now, it is for 25 nodes. So 25 node operators, and then down the line we'll see how this works, and then scale it up as required. So basically, just a quick note on the delegators program. It is so one of the key things that we want to achieve with the delegators program is to decentralize the mixnet even further, because there's not a lot of issues around centralization when it comes to the mixnet, but things could always be better. So there are some blind spots in the world. There are some regions where we don't really have a lot of mixed nodes, and also there's quite a few nodes running on Hetzner and AWS and on other major VPS providers. So that's also the point of centralization. So one of the things that we want to incentivize is to have nodes set up in regions where there are not many underrepresented regions, as we call them, and also to have nodes running not in one of those major VPS providers, maybe even locally, or if you have access to a server where you can just deploy a mixed node, you can also do that. That's one of the goals. But the more exciting goal is there are two more exciting goals. One is the fact that we are looking to make you guys make your nodes profitable. So there's this question that we got a lot of times in the past. You know, I'm running the mixed node. I don't have any delegations, so I'm not making any profit. But because I don't have any delegations, I'm not getting any delegations. So how do I get delegations? That's kind of a difficult situation to solve. So this is one of the things that we're aiming to solve with the delegations program. So we're going to give 25 selected mixed nodes treasury delegations of 200,000 NIM, which is around to the current saturation point, which is the maximum amount of stake that still brings rewards to the operator and delegators, is almost 1 million NIM tokens. So that's about 20% saturation. What this number does, so if you have that much stake, does is it ensures that you're getting into the active set fairly often, so you get to mix traffic, and also you will get some mixed mining rewards in the process. So, and of course, if people see if delegators see that you already have some stake and you're in the active sets fairly often, then you're going to be attracting delegators on your own as well. So you're not going to be relying on the NIM delegations forever to attract delegations. You're at some point going to also attract delegations sort of organically. So that's the other thing, and also the super exciting other thing that is happening as part of the delegations program is that you guys are gonna have mentors. I'm not gonna spoil the fun who those are gonna be, but some of our community OGs are gonna be mentoring you guys with best practices as to how to operate mixed nodes with high reliability, and also as to how to be contributors in the community. Because when it comes to the mixnet, the name of the game is very much trust. So all of our very successful node operators got to where they are by being recognized distinguished members of our community. They are contributing in various ways, far beyond just operating a mixed node. So they're gonna They're going to provide some guidance and mentorship for you guys to be able to basically get where they are today. So that's all there is to about the delegations program. Let me know if there are any questions. And at the end of this conversation with Rafa, actually, we planned to talk a little bit about the delegations program. So then I'm going to also answer delegations program related questions. Now say that 10 times fast. It's kind of difficult. Anyways, so with that, I'm done with the news roundup, and we're moving on to Rafa, our conversation with Rafa, I should say. All right, so Rafa, do you want to introduce yourself a little bit? What should people know about you?
Yeah, absolutely. Cool. So, well, about me, I've recently joined NIM as Subi just mentioned, like about a month and a half ago, more or less. And it's been a really exciting time for me because of many different reasons, to be honest. One of them, and I guess that the most important, is the whole thing about privacy. So you say, I know it's very vague for now, but I've been working in the software sector industry actually for about around 8 to 9 years. Previously to that, I was doing some book design with artists. So I was working very closely with artists back in the time after finishing uni. And then very quickly moved into software development, particularly with the UX aspect of any software. So I've been working. I like to say that I'm a little bit of an industry agnostic in a way. So like doing the UX from for the government, EY. Been doing stuff in financial sector, in the investment sector, so a bunch of them, because I really believe, from a point of view, that the software in itself, is an interface essentially in between an individual and the internet. So then, it could be quite transferable between industries. So I can talk about that a little bit more later. But the point of all of this is that I've been around different industries, and one of the things that always struck me a lot is the whole case about privacy. And we can differentiate between privacy as an adjective, so something that we could put on, it's an addition to something, so we could make something a bit more private, or a completely different point, which is privacy as a noun. So working in privacy as something that relates a little bit more towards human rights and data rights, etc. So at some point back in 2018, I've myself and my colleague Joab Aviram, right at the back of the whole GDPR a kind of situation back in 2018, we decided to open or to start with a charity called Conscious Digital, and we launched our first product called Your Data Rights. Back then, it was called optout.eu, and as you can imagine, it sounds very Brexity from me being from the UK, so we had to change the name, and that was the beginning of my proper kind of connection with privacy. Fast forward to 2023, been following NIM project for a little bit of time, so it's actually very exciting to be here helping out in different areas of the product. I think that was okay. Maybe a bit too much.
No, it was
fantastic.
perfect. It was perfect. Can I ask a bit more about that project of yours? Because I know it the optout.eu, yeah, it's a good point that it sounds a bit Brexity. I kind of agree. But it was a really interesting project, and I want to hear a bit more about the details.
Yeah, absolutely.
I already know the details. Just to spoil the fun, guys. I already know the details. I'm just asking him to also share it with you.
Brilliant. Yeah, very happy to do it. So yeah, so a bit of the story of what happens there. As I said, now it's called Your Data Rights, and it's essentially, it all came at the back of GDPR, but also one thing that struck us the most, I guess, from the whole thing was that when GDPR came out, most of you, if you live in Europe, for those that live in Europe actually, you will remember that back in 2018, we have an avalanche of emails from all of the companies asking us to keep our data. So there's a lot of emails from every interaction that you might have had with any company. So this is like the deliveries of the world, Ubers, the subscriptions, products, anyone, everyone will actually email us as their customers to keep their data. They named GDPR in many cases. And then right after the whole system with the cookies and stuff exploded as well, which actually turned into a little bit of a bad reputation for GDPR. I'm on the thinking that GDPR has good intentions. So it's actually, it's for the good. That's kind of the idea, trying to do GDPR for the good and for the people. But it's being really badly promoted, and also they have very little indications about implementation for the companies, which then makes it a very complicated, as I was saying, a very kind of bad reputation. So back in 2018, few weeks after it launched, actually, my colleague and I, we decided to use or to work on that space a little bit. And what I mean with this is that we wanted to make sure that although GDPR have bad reputation, in truth, what it's providing you is a platform for you to opt out from, like delete your data from a given company, or request the data, know what they have from you, or change that data. But no one knew about any of the stuff really, right? Like, so we started to build this product which essentially helps you to exercise your data rights in that space. So have a bunch of company emails, and then we will give you templates, so then you can opt out from them. Which was, as you can imagine, at the beginning, I guess that the good thing, one of the things that I like from here is we've used very lean practices, which means that within 2 days we have an application up and running, and within 3 months we have around 3,000 people using the application. So that was kind of quite a rapid kind of proposition that we put in place. But everything was just basically built on a Google spreadsheet. So it's just like there's no tech behind it at all. It's just like a Google spreadsheet as a database. We make an open source project. We chuck it in there. We try to ask for a few bits of funding to get this up and running. No one gave us anything, so we just did it ourselves. And the best thing of GDPR, and that was actually, I guess, our advantage in this whole thing, is that within the GDPR regulation, you could email anyone into any company with your details, with your requests, and they should be able to point you to the right person. Which for us, it was great, right? Because you could just get like the closest thing that you can get as an email, info at blah, 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 or privacy at blah, 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 or even just, if you want to email directly Zuckerberg and you can actually find his email, you can actually do it. And they should be able to point you to the right place. So that was really good. And then man, just the whole story began. It was like, it's been like 5 years of getting really close to people that in general, they're very angry most of the time. It's people that really want to opt out from a company for a given reason. So it's been very, very interesting to talk to these people, to be there for them, really with different strategies. And now today we have around 25,000 requests every month from people opting out from different companies, particularly data brokers, which is always a big win. But yeah, that's where we are right now. We shift from opt out to data rights just for the bad rep of Brexit. Really.
Fantastic story, and it's still like a wonderful tool. Can I ask Rafa maybe that? So was there a personal super motivation behind this, or it was just natural? Like when you started doing this, it was super early on. Like nobody really talked about these things back then as much as now. So was there like a very personal motivation behind, or it just was a natural succession of your interests and things, or just like, oh hey, let's do this, and then yeah.
A mix of those, I would say. I think it's a mix of those. No, that's a good one actually. I think it's a mix of those. In one hand, I'm always, being a bit advocate of people being able to make their own choices, and this is where I'm also kind of got into the right space, because and what we're doing is not about, it's not about a lobbying or getting strong in that space. It's about giving tools to people to do what they want to do, right? So I've always been a bit advocate. So that's the personal side of me. But then from the more, I guess, experiential way, back then, I'm not gonna drop names, but I was one of my consultancy gigs was with a big publishing company. We're doing events, mainly like a multinational kind of events company. And then we have this situation where we were doing events pages, and I come from a UX perspective, right? So you basically, there's two questions that you always ask when you are a UX designer. You ask why, and you say depends. Those are the two things that you always say. So when you go deep and deep by asking why on those events, you learned that at the very end of the day, even if you've got 3 events, there's an economic behind owning that data, right? So it's like as much, basically, the many that you can collect for your events, emails, the better that you have. So that came out really at some point in as I was saying, in one of the gigs, and that was kind of very painful, but like work is work, so you have to pay your bills. So we did these, we made this platform. I was very kind of deep into the project already to say no, but then the thing that actually hurt the most, and this is coming from my more technical and design perspective, is that when we managed to do this, and we found a way that we could at least bring some value to the users, and then they will give us the email for various reasons. Then we packaged that up, we prepared it, and then we started to do a little bit of an exercise around cataloging that information, right? So you've got a bunch of emails. So we've assumed that as a company, you would like to have that divided, or you want to know about this, so you at least are interested in what's behind those emails. So who's these people? To our surprise, they say no. They just wanted to have a bunch of emails all together in a database, because at the very end of the day, what they wanted is to sell that database to other companies. So that was like a professionally, like a bit of a hit, I guess. Like
wake up moment, no?
Yeah, a bit of a wake up moment. As I say, yeah, you're right, a bit of a wake up moment. And since then, it's always been kind of taking that side of any consultancy has always been my thing now. So when we work into any project, there's always a privacy / data rights aspects. When I was doing previously to name any gig, it was always around that space. So yeah, it became an important part, and that's how it came out.
Thank you for sharing. So I'm gonna have a cheeky question, if you don't mind, Sudo, which is gonna circle around more NIM. As a user researcher, user experience designer, what was your and since kind of you're interested now in these questions from inside, so what was your initial impression about NIM? When did you first hear about it, and how did it make you feel, or what did make you want to come closer to NIM?
Yeah, so I've heard about NIM, I would say at the back of 2021, probably. It was more or less like at the very end of 2021. And to be honest, the first thing I thought about NIM is, well, it was refreshing to think about Web3 and crypto in a different way. So it's not only about just kind of making the big bucks, but also to bring something of value to the users. And at the same time, I thought that, hey, these guys are working in the kind of on the basis, it's like the bottom, we could build anything above this, right? So we've got the technology, we've got we've got all the stuff in there. Now what we can do is limitless, essentially. So, anything that we could then explore and understand from users, and then see, what can it come out at the back of that infrastructure? It was very interesting for me, to be honest. And that was actually one of the things that drove me here. And then talking to you guys, talking to Jess from the executive team, it was very clear that, yes, that is the case. We can do a lot of stuff. And that's very, very exciting.
Yeah, there's the paradox of choosing the right stuff to do. And that's when we really need good people to think together on this, where to go, or what's the direction to explore.
Yeah, yeah, totally. And that's important, right? Because it's there's a lot of really great thinkers and NIM as well, which is also very, very, very exciting for me. And yeah, you're right, like having the space for thinking, and to kind of together find the right way or the right route to do something is a thing. But I also believe in a way that particularly Web3 and the crypto world is in a way such an infancy right now that we can still, it's kind of thinking about the internet in the 90s. You could do anything back in the 90s. You can do whatever you want to do. And I feel that there's still a little bit of room to explore those areas right now and where we are. I might be wrong, but that's the feeling, at least, thing that I have right now.
Actually, I think this is a good spot to answer our first community question. Tony, the crypto guru, apparently, so we may want to reach out and DM to ask for some advice, is asking. He wants to know more about the aim of the project in the Web3 ecosystem and what it intends to do in terms of benefits nationwide, like his region of Africa. Do you wanna riff on that?
Well, I think that this is definitely like a very important question to explore at the moment. So we're saying like I'm very new to the whole strategy, and I know that there is big changes, not changes, but there's big ideas right now at NIM that hopefully we might be slowly be showing and bringing into the community bit by bit. But yeah, I guess it's a bit too early for me to answer those big questions.
But I think it's a good point to maybe marinate on this a little bit or riff on it, because it's something to explore, definitely, I think. So just to chip in my view, I think that especially those regions who haven't had the nicest time in the past 50 years, which kind of missed the modernization or capitalism train, Africa or Asia, those have the biggest opportunity to sort of technology leap ahead and start using stuff which is not built on old infrastructure like the old internet or like all these centralized protocols, centralized data servers. And I think these are the regions and areas where NIM could have, I don't know, maybe the steepest user base growth in the shortest time, because there's people who are not really used to using any kind of or not used to using internet tools every day, or these apps what we're used to. So maybe it's the best point to start testing out some of the tech that runs through the mixnet, or some of the first use cases which can bring anonymity into the internet usage of countries where they might even need it more than some of the Western countries, because we tend to hear these crazy stories how sort of more dictatorial governments work with user data, or how they exploit having access to data of the citizens. Maybe those areas probably where NIM can make the biggest impact, I think. What do you guys think?
Yeah, well, I would add so in response to Tony's question, he mentions project in the Web3 ecosystem. Well, what's important to understand is NIM, we are a Web3/crypto project, but we're not specific to Web3. So what NIM wants to solve is not for Web3, and it's not for Africa or for Europe, it's for the entire world, is the fact that this system that we're using today for basically everything, for this call that we're having right now, for all our communications, for all the like information consumption that we do and everything else, is fundamentally not capable of protecting our privacy at the level of the infrastructure. So the actual thing that carries the messages between people and between you and your lawyer and your loved ones is leaking data about you. And then what NIM aims to do, what the Mixnet does that NIM built, is solving that. So creating an infrastructure which does not leak your data. So basically solving privacy without you having to do much other than using products in the future that run on the NIM Mixnet, and through that, your privacy will be guaranteed to a degree that is not really possible right now, because the internet itself is flawed in a very fundamental way. So yeah, that's my 2 cents.
Absolutely, there's a user experience part of this, I think, because the Web2 apps, or the kind of apps that capture all the data, like the Google single sign-on or Discord, or these have like flawless UX. These are made, designed to keep people stick to these interfaces. And whereas novel tools, which kind of experimental software or not that developed, or tools with not that developed UIs or user experience, it's kind of harder to educate people on, who's already super used to these ultra convenient social platforms, for example.
let me steer a little bit because I wanted you Hux to be back as a co-host for this specific call with specifically Rafa, and maybe before we steer towards what Rafa is doing at NIM, let's talk about why I wanted you to be here with Rafa. What are you guys doing together?
Marketing section. Yeah, thanks for the question. So yeah, we're working together with Rafa on a super exciting project. We're doing a user research, specifically looking for people who are kind of new to NIM or freshly arrived at the project, because it's very fundamental to know the motivations of all you guys who are listening to this call, and not mentioning the OGs or people who've been around super long time, but why are people interested in NIM? What's their motivation, and how we could create better experiences for them when they use the wallet application, or how they can access information on the website. So this project just kicked off, and super excited. We're going to share some call outs here on Discord to really start looking for people who would contribute. Yeah, and I'm super happy to have Rafa working with together with this, because yeah, with your experience, it's going to be, I think we're just going to find the right insights and matches to make NIM a lot more accessible and user friendly.
Yeah, no, and I believe that's I think Sam is very exciting, guys, that you join us to to do all this bit. We know we've been. I mean, I'm quite well aware that everyone knows about startup pace, and it's kind of always really you need to kind of get stuff out, and I've done it before as well in different companies where you just need to get things out. But it gets to a point where we need to kind of stop and then think a little bit more thoroughly about all of this stuff, and understand who's using it, why are they using it, are we actually doing the right thing for you guys? Is this really what you guys want to get at the back of our wallet and NIM Connect and all of the products that we currently have for you? And it's like, is the documentation clear for you guys? Like, all of those stuff are questions that like we both are really looking forward to kind of know more, basically.
Yeah, and if this resonated with you, this call out, this is the time to step up and ping me or ping Rafa or reply to our call outs here in the channels in the following days, because yeah, it's a time to shape NIM user experience together, I guess.
Totally. That sounds like a good call.
Let's give people an example, because maybe not everybody's familiar with user experience. Okay, so let's say there's a guy called Sudo who wants to do really good community calls for the NIM community. Just in theory, like it's a completely hypothetical example. So if people attend Sudo's community calls, how does Sudo go about getting feedback from those people about things? Because maybe people are shy, maybe people don't want to, maybe they don't even know that they have feedback that will be valuable. So how do you go about as a UX designer getting meaningful feedback?
So that's actually the $1 million question, and I believe that's both of us, we got that question quite a lot. And I was saying before, like the direct answer, you guess, it would be, it depends. It always depends on the context. It depends what we have or what we do. So things could be shaped in different ways, but I'm a firm believer that it's very important to keep a good relationship with the people that you're building products towards, basically. So I'm having we're working in this wallet, and it's very important that we are open enough to get feedback from people from wherever it comes. It could come from Discord, it could come from a meetup, it can come from anywhere, and then be quite curious about those ones. So a lot of the times, you've got certain comments that lead you to places that perhaps you never thought about. So you could think like I'm just gonna say like a very kind of silly example here. As I was saying, Discord is not one of my favorite platforms for a number of reasons, but regardless, I've joined the stage. And it took me a good while until I actually found the chat that was in the top right corner. It's not really where normally things are. Like patterns on websites have, things change really rapidly, but that's not really where you will find this type of information. So, if you suddenly join a call and then you find that in the NIM stage, chat, no one's posting anything, surely there's a queue there. right? There's a reason why those things are happening, and you can explore like that in that direction. But to get like direct feedback most of the time, my go-to is to have something actionable that are like basically at hand to the user when they need it the most. For example, again, let me just try to kind of bring another example. We might not be sure if people like we just saw like a drop in people accessing the wallet, for example. This is hypothetical, this is not real, but this is a hypothetical scenario. We see people that is not being able to access the wallet, and then we don't know why. We just don't know why, and it's impossible to know. How about we just try to think, well, where people could drop in this case, they don't know how to recover the password, for example. We need to think and then explore like what people do normally, and then have the right prompt in the right place. So in this case, for example, would be on the login page. It's like, oh, you have issues accessing the website, accessing the product, or accessing the wallet. Drop us a line here, or talk to us, or why, etc. So it's always about, I'm a firm believer that whatever we do, it needs to be really easy for users to access. So then when they have the problem, they could get back to us fairly quickly, and then see what we go. I don't know, what do you think?
Yeah, I agree with everything what you said. I might just extend it at one point, that to answer Sudo's question, like if you want to make the NIM community calls on Discord better, it does matter who you ask, because if you ask your grandmother and your sister's boyfriend, probably how to make my community calls better, even if they give feedback, it's kind of will be off. So I think what Rafa said in the beginning, but just want to emphasize that to find the actual users who are using or who are there on the community calls, and also to find a little bit of structured way of asking for feedback. And also I think there's a very interesting element of not of how do we collect like deeper motivations or deeper insights or collective insights from groups of people, and these inquiries into groups of users are best condensed into sort of research projects, because there's one thing for the users to be able to give continuous feedback wherever they might fall off the journey, or wherever they don't find a link or a button, but there's also these times when kind of to help more with future design, and to figure out like really who are we designing these for, what are your desires, what are your needs that these tools should suffice. And in those cases, what another method could be is to conduct long interviews using the same questionnaire with similar kind of user people. And then from those long interviews, there's ample insights or patterns that emerge that, oh, wow, all of the people who we talk to are really driven by this or that factor, or all of the people who are on these community calls having a nice Saturday afternoon and they don't really have work, so that the collective patterns from users are also very variable. And probably built on that and having continuous feedback everywhere across the applications, I think that's probably the best way to build a good product for the people who use it.
I totally agree. So just let add one more thing there, just for those that might not be like fully. Sorry, Sudo, I'm just going to open that for you in a minute.
No problem. It's okay. Go ahead.
Is this thing? So there's this. I think that this is also kind of an important differentiator when you get down into the depth of user experience, which is like understanding, like as we were saying, like the goals and needs and challenges and all those patterns. It might be slightly different from what we call usability. So usability is the way in which an individual, a person, is interacting with a system. And when I say I'm trying to use this word specifically, like a system or interacting, because it could be like a voice interaction, it could be like a manual interaction, it could be like a telephone interaction. But understanding like how like the flaws in the usability, so how people can or cannot achieve the goals that they're trying to achieve when they use a given product. That's what we call normally usability, and this is slightly different from what we're saying, because that's a little bit more condensed in this sense. So it's very specific about looking to the small details to make the experiences a little bit better. But they don't, and it's also to say that they're not contradicting each other. They're just two different areas of user experience, and Normally, you will try to cover as much as you can when you're building this product. But that's a small difference, I guess, that is quite important, particularly when we talked about user experience.
Yes, absolutely, and thanks for mentioning that. There's a question which I just seen in the chat from CGI. Can I chime it in? Which relates to which I can actually answer. So the question is if there's incentives for the interviews. And it's a tricky thing, incentivizing something, because if you communicate what the incentive is, that there will be might just people who do it for the incentives, and they're not real stuff to be shared. So yes, there are incentives for the interviews, but we're not able to tell them before you actually commit to do the interviews. And yeah, so that's a fine line.
That's something that that is becoming relevant in more ways than one. If you want feedback from the broadest range of people, do you, as a project, if we have quite a few lurkers who are not, like in our community, there's quite a few lurkers. We're not that active. How do you activate them? I don't have a good answer for this. I'm like on the fence. I feel a bit bad about incentivizing interviews, but when you want reach and want like a large number of people responding, that's it's difficult sometimes to achieve. So what's your take on it, Rafa?
I think you guess what I'm going to say, but it depends. I kind of a little bit depends of what we're doing, because say that in another scenario we are trying to understand why people is not joining the community. If we give them tokens, for example, in this case, it might be something that they're not really interested on, right? So we're not going to actually kind of get the right people. Talking about the same thing again. So finding the right incentive for the right people in the right time is also important. As I was making the difference in between usability and the more kind of exploratory interviews that we might have. Within usability, is a little bit more direct. So you're normally going to be working with people that currently uses a given platform or a given tool, and that might be a space where incentives in some sort of form, could vary in different ways, and that could be, that's not necessarily a bad thing, because what we need to understand is how, what are the things that I might be working on or working within a given application. Now, we talked about, like exploring new worlds. Again, it depends. It would work to do something like that, like having some sort of incentive. And I'm sure that some of you guys might have done this before, but you can also just grab your laptop or your phone if you're working in an app, go to a coffee shop, and then you say, hey, I'll buy you a coffee if you just answer a few questions for me. So you can kind of grab people that's totally random. It will depend very much about the scope of what you're trying to do. And I don't think that sometimes that sometimes could be beneficial, actually. It could make things easier or faster if you've got incentives.
Yeah, maybe just one summary thought to add to that. Incentives really drive it's really like a filter, I think. So if depending on the task and the target people and then what you want to achieve, incentives can really scale things up, but it also kind of just one motivator, and although it also filters out maybe the very quality motivation out of others people's sales. So it's a tricky game. Sudo, it's not easy.
Yeah. Let me do a little bit of a jump. I just saw here, just gonna go. I'm trying to kind of get familiar with this whole thing stage and talking here, guys. But I'm just gonna answer like a random one I picked in here, which is Nick asking how to submit product-related feedback. So for now, we're working on the structure to get this in the right place. But for now, you feel free completely to just DM me here in the Discord community. Better than the Telegram. So if we can go into the Discord community, it's going to be better. Just reach out to me directly, and then we can find ways in which we could collect all of that information, which definitely is going to be, right, to me, it's particularly important, because we're working to do this better for you guys. So thanks, Nick, for posting that question, and I hope that you guys can find me around here. Go on, Sudo. Sorry, I stopped you before.
Yeah, that would have been the question that I wanted to ask, and also adding a bit to it, because I think feedback has been, if I'm completely honest, has been not something that we're doing well. Asking for feedback. So there are some haphazard ways of people leaving feedback. You can always use the help and support channel here on Discord. You can always, leave a message on other channels in Discord as well. Maybe general if you don't want to look through the 7 million channels that we have, or even on Telegram. And there's also a bug reporting process, but that's specific to bugs, which are issues of a different kind. But feedback is not something that systemically we've been doing well. So what good ways exist for, capturing feedback on on a recurring basis?
You mean in general is what you're saying, or what do you mean, Sudha? Sorry.
Yeah, in general. So about obviously tools and apps that we have, but also about things that we do. Like just feedback, because there's a whole host of like a large number of eyeballs being pointed towards us. Obviously, those eyeballs have brains behind them, which have thoughts, and experiences, and that's a really valuable thing, because ultimately those people are who we're trying to, like deliver things for. That is good for them, that is coming at the right time, in the right form, and also the right information about those things. And how do you like foster culture, and also create the systems that actually lead to getting feedback on a recurring basis?
There's many different ways that we could do this. So it's then a bit more qualitative in a sense. It would be just trying to talk directly again to us, something that's really painful, or something that just doesn't work, or it's kind of not, it just doesn't work. We can go and then straight just either contact us, or maybe for those that are a little bit more tech savvy, we can use GitHub right now, where we can collect bugs or anything that might not be working. Just you can go straight into GitHub, into our repo, where we've got all the bugs, and then paste it in there. That's a current kind of way of getting some of that information. And as I was saying, we're looking right now into ways to collect more. Options could be things like in-app supports, so, stuff that you can just kind of ask a question or drop a comment here or there. That could be an option. Other options could be like continuous open mic sessions. I've done this in the past where, say, not obviously you're doing the community calls right now. So there'll be, like things like, every Tuesday in the morning we are here to answer any questions. And we're happy just to jump into calls if something happens and try to get it out. But so we're saying, like, right now we currently at NIM working on that particular kind of aspect of the products, and we hopefully are going to have more information very soon. But for now, the one thing that I'm kind of gonna say to everyone around here that and in the stage with us is that you're probably gonna hear a lot from me, and I might be poking you around in the different communities to try to be present for you, to just reach out to me, and then we can talk about any of those issues. So keep an eye on that. It will be kind of surveys and questionnaires and calls to interviews very soon.
On that note, can I ask you a question, Rafa?
Okay.
The big question of what's your wildest dream coming through with NIM in this year? What would be the moonshot that you would love to achieve, or during this year in your position?
That's a great question. Actually, that's a difficult question. I'm a firm believer that technology is part of our lives these days, and we should be able to decide how to interact with it as individuals, right? So what I'm trying to say with this is that we should be able to interact with technologies in the way that suit us in one way or another. So when I think about, one thing that I would like to achieve, I guess in the next year, is making sure that anything we do at NIM from the product perspective is inclusive, so it reaches as many people as it can, is accessible, so anyone with any issues could access it, and it's easy to understand. So anyone could have a low entry barrier to start using the Mixnet and have a bit more private presence in the internet. So that will be the three things, actually, not the one, but the three things that I would like to achieve towards the end of the year.
Nice. I'm always super good. Thank you for the answer. I'm always thinking, like, what's the lowest barrier of entry which is still feasible? That's such a hard thing to conceptualize in my head. Sorry for rambling on this.
No, you're right, and I'm in the same boat really. It's like how how low the barrier is. There's one example which is being criticized a lot actually in later times. But it's one example of the Gov, the UK, and this is the government digital systems basically of the government here in the UK, which in recent years it's been a bit of a roller coaster for them, I believe. So they went through a phase where everyone they had all of their awards in terms of usability and accessibility. It was all of their awards. Like the design system was amazing. The products that they were doing, well, they were not thinking about products actually. They were thinking more about services. So it's not only how you interact with a given interface, but your journey through, say, getting a passport or buying a house or paying your bills. All of that stuff, they would think about the full end-to-end service journey. And they got really, really good. And then they went down and then got really, really annoyed with the GDS. GDS is the acronym of the digital. So DGS, Digital Government Service, I believe. And it's because it's quite plain. So they use blue as very kind of a very kind of simplified color palette. They use blue and they use white and they use black in such a simplified way that is like the links of the page is just blue, like it's always been in the internet, all the times. So when you see a blue underlined piece of text, that's a link, and it's extremely recognizable. So what they're doing is just work with recognizable patterns from the beginning of the internet, and then work with those constraints, which is great. But it's fascinating when you talk to anyone that was behind that project, because what they will say is like, look, we didn't do anything. We just went to the basics of usability. There's nothing exceptional. Personally, I think it's quite beautiful because they use brutalism, but they say there's just nothing exceptional. It's just like, it's what it is. And then you give the user the information in the right time. That's kind of the two principles that they were following from the beginning. And I do believe that that's a great way of doing it personally.
Absolutely. There's an added layer of difficulty here with using a Web3 wallet. So kind of, is that something that people must do? I think that's a great question to ask around in products. How can people maybe access the Mixnet without interacting with the Web3 wallet kind of infrastructure, no matter how easy that interaction might be? That's something that people have to be educated on, or people will need to understand the consequences of their clicking their button, of delegating, of sending, of accessing like wallet transactions. That's just thinking out loud again. Sorry.
No, totally agree. But there's also another angle when you say, what's the difference? I mean, I believe that the internet, for the kind of end kind of user, is just kind of text, pictures, and links. Pretty much it, really. This interconnection of information, images, and the information itself. And you could even actually say that images are information. So to me, any piece of software, it could be Web3, it could be anything, is about users interacting with an interface. And again, interface is an open word here. It could be voice, it could be anything, doesn't matter. But it's interacting with an interface and understanding how they can, interact with it. So if we need to personally educate someone to do or not to do a given thing on a wallet, it's because the software is not doing the right job, right? It's not clear enough for an individual, the consequences of what's happening behind. It's like, is this really what you want to do? Like all of that stuff, there's some sort of questions still around. So then the usability of that particular product might not be solving, might not be on point, I guess, for the difficulty that is to work in the Web3 world. But yeah, sorry, go on.
No, I agree with. I'm just laughing because that's a good summary of the whole Web3 ecosystem right now. Like all wallet interfaces are sort of hard to interact with, and there's like a constant headache for on every conference or every UX designer circles how to make Web3 software or Web3 infused software simple enough that you don't even know anymore that it's something to do with Web3.
Yeah, that's right.
And, I think if that's cracked here or wherever, that's going to bring a lot more users all in all into the whole field or new internet technologies. Yeah.
Well, I think it needs to happen, right? Because if it doesn't happen, we will never have the adoption that we need to. And what we're talking about is to change the way of internet works. So, it needs to be that way. If it's not that way, it's going to be always complicated. And, you can start like a very simple example of when, there is a lot of stuff that is repeated, although we don't think it's repeated. So when you think about the wallet address, right? You've got like a string of numbers and letters in there that is yours and you own it. That's your wallet.
Yeah.
That's always been the case in the internet. It's just that you put then another layer when you kind of have a nick on top of that. But it's the same thing that always happens, right? But the perception that we have towards certain things make us, believe that some stuff might need to be different just because of the sake of being different. And I don't think so. It's like there's kind of larger goals that we need to achieve in the Web3 world that relates to to safer, more secure, and better work for the internet. But the interactions, I'm not sure how different they need to be honest. I'm not too sure.
Yeah, I'm very much in the same boat. Super happy to have you on board. That's the big goal here. Can I just chime in a question? Actually, I think it's a question for Sudo this time. Sorry, Rafa. It's from Tony, Crypto Guru. Like, talking about community development and growth, what does NIM intend doing about that? I think, Sudo, this one's for you.
Yeah, that is indeed for me. It's a great question. So, something that is happening soon. I think that I should start with. Maybe not. Maybe I won't say soon because then people will hate me forever if it's not soon. But at some point in the near future, what's happening is there was something called Shipyard Academy late last year, which was our first attempt at sort of like a larger structured educational program to onboard new community members and share our vision and also inform people about our tech. It was sort of like a gamified 6-week program, and it was really successful. So we're gonna do either that again or something very similar to it. Probably there's gonna be. So we learned a lot of things through our Shipyard Academy, so we will improve it in some ways, but the general idea is the same. If you need more info about Shipyard Academy, then I can share some links after the call if you want. So that's one thing that is happening. Also, growth is kind of happening as we do have all sorts of outreach campaigns and that kind of stuff, and I'm not directly responsible for that, but it is happening. What we are focusing on, besides that, which I think is also really important, is empowerment. So I'm not sure whether you were here already in the beginning of the call when I talked about the delegations program that we just launched today. Finally, that's one example of basically taking the people who we already have and empowering them to contribute to the NIM vision. So that's also a very important aspect of 2023. There's more coming in that regard as well. And we also just launched recently our ambassador program, which will do well. Basically, that is somewhere in between these two things, growth and empowerment. So that's in sort of like a pilot run starting very soon, next week, with a few ambassadors first, and then it is going to scale up quite significantly over the year. So community-wise, there's a lot going on around NIM these days, and it's actually super exciting to be head of community these days for NIM.
Thank you for your super cool answer. Should we have a closing thought, both from you, Rafa, and Sudo, because it's kind of time. I don't want to say that it's the party over, but the closing question would be that what's your leisure plans for summer?
Oh gosh, that's an easy one. I've got it all planned. Normally don't plan these things, but this year it needs to happen that way just because of external circumstances. My plan is to go to the second level of scuba diving, so try to become a pro slowly. That's the plan. It's going to be a week of dives in the sea. That's my plan.
Fantastic. I just have level 1, so I'm going to be envious of you.
I mean, level 2 is still like not too much, you know that. So slowly getting there. So
all right, I'm gonna stall a little bit and ask Daniel in a table flip. That's the Hungarian expression. What's the table's turn, right? yeah, the table. I'm
Yeah.
turning the table on Daniel and asking him how his summer's gonna go.
Well, I really want to go to speak at some bigger festivals about anonymity, future internet, and crypto anarchy, and not to party too much, but sort of educate festival crowds on these important issues. And I'm still debating which two to go to. Then I can tell more later when I know more.
That's dope. That sounds dope. Well, actually, I have zero plans as usual. So I don't usually plan things far ahead, and also I'm kind of busy. So I don't think I will take like very long holidays. But what I already know, and this is for someone special in the audience, I'm going to go to Switzerland to visit a certain person. I already know when, actually, and yeah. So that's one thing. I'm going to go to probably Neuchâtel and Geneva as well during the summer because I promised someone.
There's no comparison, but hey, dude, the summer in London is actually not too bad. If you want to kind of swim by, it's always great.
I don't know. I've never actually been to England, so maybe that too.
Maybe this time. But, I mean, there's plenty of festivals here. If you like music, that's also a really good thing in here.
European pseudo tour, and then we're gonna have these dates and times when you're gonna be popping up in different cities. I love it.
Nice.
And maybe it's not that much of a summer plan, but there's also going to be so for context, guys, for those of you who are new, I see a few new faces in the audience today. So Donnie on stage here is from something called the Pineapple Proxy, which was this now self-sufficient little community of amazing people, which grew out basically from Shipyard Academy that I already talked about. And there's going to be a pineapple proxy / NIM meetup in Prague. Not summer, technically, it's late May. So yeah, close enough. But yeah, that's another plan that I have lined up.
Yes. Am I still on? Oh yes. My mic is still on. Absolutely. Thanks for that invite. Come to Prague. Have fun with us. We're gonna do some workshop probably too, like a community co-creative stuff. So if you're around, do let us know. Maybe another piece of news items to the end, because there's gonna be something kind of special happening tomorrow. If you don't have any more special thing to do, at 18 p.m. CET, there's gonna be a Twitter space where Harry is gonna be appearing on the Lunar DAO Twitter account, and it's an all-stars Twitter space. So we're gonna have a lively discussion with over 8 confirmed participants. So yeah. That was my program recommendation for Saturday night. It's quite lame, but still. Thanks guys for listening. I think with that, Rafa?
No, just saying from my end, just very last thing. Thank you very much, guys, for having us. Thank you to everyone here in the community joining the call today. And as I said, I'm gonna be bothering you around, guys. But if any of you here in the call is a node operator, I'm particularly interested right now in talking to them, to you guys. So if you're running a node somewhere, drop me a DM. I will be good to have a quick chat, even a few lines. It's going to be a couple of questions. So really appreciate if anyone reach out. And yeah, I'll try to come to Prague. I can maybe convince someone to try to pay me for to pay for the trip to Prague. That'd be awesome. Thank you very much, guys.
You said you talked to the node operators in the right call. I know quite a few people here are, so hopefully you'll get some people reaching out.
Excellent.
All right, well, I guess that brings us to the end of this magnificent community call. Thanks to both of you for jumping on. It was a real pleasure, but the true thanks goes to the audience. Huge thanks for joining us today. Have a lovely weekend, everybody. The call was recorded, and at some point, I promise, is going to be uploaded to our YouTube channel. I have a huge backlog with community calls. I've been very, very busy, but actually now I have help, someone who's going to do the uploads for me. So hopefully the upload schedule will be way, way more tidy than it currently is. So please stick with me and or bear with me and be patient. And yeah, once again, a lovely weekend to everybody, and catch you on the channels.
Thanks for the chat.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Ciao.